My name is Elise Carter, and I was 29 the night my wedding got downgraded from a dream to a question mark. I was at the dining table with my laptop open, squinting at a color-coded guest list that looked more like a war map than a spreadsheet. 200 names, notes in the margins, columns for RSVP status, plus ones, table assignments, the soft hum of the dishwasher in the kitchen, the faint glow of string lights from the balcony filtering in. I was the kind of tired that made thoughts feel heavy, but it was the good kind of tired, or at least it had been. Busy, stressed, sure, but moving toward something. White dress in a garment bag, venue booked, deposits paid, the kind of momentum you don't stop unless something is very, very wrong. The front door opened. "Hey," I called, still scanning the list. "How was guys' night?" No answer. That was the first red flag. I looked up. Nate stepped inside and closed the door like it weighed more than it should. He dropped his keys and the bowl by the entry table, missed the bowl, and just let them clatter to the floor. His shoulders were hunched, jaw tight, eyes somewhere between me and the middle distance. "Good night," I tried again, forcing a smile. "You smell like wings and bad decisions, so I'm assuming the answer is yes." He didn't laugh. Instead, he said the four words every person in a relationship learns to fear. "We need to talk." My stomach dropped. "Oh," I said lightly, "because what else do you do?" "Those words. Okay, about what?" He came over but didn't sit next to me. He took the chair opposite, like we were at a negotiation instead of our own dining table. He folded his hands, stared at a spot on the wood, then finally looked up. "The guys brought up some things tonight," he said, "about marriage, about how women change." I blinked. "Change how?" "After the wedding." He swallowed. "They said it's like a switch flips. You stop trying. Stop being affectionate. Just settle." They all said the same thing. I closed my laptop very carefully. Who's they? You know, Mark, Tyler, Chris, all of them. He ran a hand through his hair. Every single one of them said their wives were amazing when they were dating. And then after the wedding, he trailed off. "After the wedding, what?" I asked, even though I already knew the script. "They just stopped." His voice was quieter now. "Stopped planning surprises, stopped dressing up, stopped caring. One day they wake up and realize they're roommates with someone who barely looks at them." I stared at him. "So let me get this straight," I said slowly. "Your friends who, not to be rude, but whose relationships are not exactly aspirational, spent an evening telling you horror stories about their wives, and now you're worried I'm going to turn into some cartoon nagging wife the second we sign a marriage license?" "That's not what I'm saying." "That is exactly what you're saying." "I'm saying—" He took a breath, frustration tightening his features. "They made good points, Elise. What if it's true? What if you do change? What if marriage ruins what we have?" I sat back, feeling the air in the room shift. We'd been together 4 years, engaged almost a year. The wedding was in less than 6 months. My browser still had tabs open to linen napkin colors. And now this. "Have I done anything," I asked quietly, "in the last 4 years that makes you think I'm secretly biding my time until I can let myself go and ignore you?" "No," he said immediately. "No, that's not—" "Because I remember all the late nights when you were sick and I took care of you. The trips I planned, the stupid little notes I left in your lunch, the fact that I still shave my legs in winter." My laugh came out flat. "If anything, I've already been acting like a wife." "That's what scares me," he blurted. I stared. "I'm sorry?" "You're already doing everything." His words rushed out now. "You're organized, you plan, you take care of things. What if once it's official, you're just tired? What if you stop? What if we get comfortable and everything good just fades?" I sat there, processing. The man I loved wasn't accusing me of anything I'd done. He was accusing me of something he'd decided I would eventually do. "You know what?" I said finally. His eyes met mine, hopeful and wary. "What?" "Maybe they're right." His head snapped up. "What?" "Maybe I will change." I shrugged, even as my chest burned. Who knows? Maybe all women do. Apparently, there's some secret switch they forgot to tell me about. Maybe it flips as soon as I sign my new last name. "You're supposed to tell me I'm being ridiculous," he said, voice cracking. "You're supposed to tell me I'm overreacting." "Why?" I asked. "Why would I do that if you already believe your friends' scare stories more than you believe the person you've actually been with for 4 years?" "I didn't say I believe them," he snapped. "I said I'm worried." "Based on what?" My voice sharpened. "Not my behavior, not our actual relationship, just their complaints." They didn't see it coming either, he said. That's the point. Their wives were perfect until they weren't. So I'm guilty by association, I said. All women are the same. You're just waiting for me to disappoint you. Stop twisting my words. I'm not twisting anything, I said, suddenly bone-tired. You walked in here, looked at our guest list, and told me you think I might turn into someone else the second we say our vows. You're not taking this seriously, he said. I am taking this very seriously, I replied. You just told me you don't trust me. That's about as serious as it gets. His jaw clenched. He pushed his chair back and stood. I need some air, he muttered, and headed down the hall. To the guest room, I called after him. He didn't answer. The door shut with a soft, final click. I sat there, listening to the hum of the dishwasher and the faint traffic outside, staring at the closed door and the abandoned spreadsheet glowing on my laptop. 200 guests. Venue booked, deposits paid, invitations designed but not sent. Everything planned down to the shade of the centerpieces. And my boyfriend had just admitted he was waiting for me to become his friends' wives. I picked up my phone and opened my messages. My thumb hovered over my best friend's name, Jenna. I hit call. She answered on the second ring. Hey, bride-to-be, how's the spreadsheet of doom? On fire, I said. She paused. Elise, what happened? I told her. The guy's night, the horror stories, the way he'd looked at me like I was a ticking time bomb instead of the person who'd held his hand through job losses and family drama. So now he's scared you're going to change, she said when I finished. That's rich. Apparently once the ring is on, I become a dragon, I said. Scales and all. She was quiet for a moment. Okay, look, you know he loves you. I did, I said. Up until tonight, I was pretty confident about that part. He's scared, she said. People say stupid things when they're scared. Maybe you just need to reassure him. Tell him you're not going anywhere, nothing's going to change. I've been reassuring him for 4 years, I said, my throat tight. With my actions, with my time, with my actual life. And after one night with his friends, he's ready to believe I'm going to turn into a cliché. Yeah, his friends suck, she muttered. You knew that, right? Oh, I knew they were kind of a mess, I said. I just didn't realize their mess was contagious. What are you going to do? She asked. I looked at the guest list, at the empty chair where he'd just been sitting, at the closed bedroom door. I'm not marrying someone who's already waiting for me to fail, I said, the words surprising me with how steady they sounded. I'm not spending my marriage on trial for things I haven't even done yet. So, what? You're going to call off the wedding? Jenna's voice was careful now. I don't know yet, I admitted, but I'm not begging him to trust me. That's not how this is going to go. Okay, she said softly. Whatever you decide, I've got you. Thanks, I whispered. After we hung up, I sat in the dim light of the dining room for a long time. Long enough for the dishwasher to beep. Long enough for the apartment to settle into that late-night stillness where every thought feels louder. From behind the guest room door, I heard the faint murmur of Nate's voice, talking to someone. Probably Mark. Maybe all of them. The Greek chorus of bitter husbands who'd turned their own bad choices into cautionary tales. I closed my eyes. You know what? Maybe they're right. Maybe people do change after marriage. I just wasn't sure they understood which one of us was changing right now. The next morning, I told myself, I'd stop spiraling and start acting. If he was afraid marriage would turn me into someone else, I'd show him something infinitely scarier. A woman who was willing to walk away. A woman who could look at a 200-person guest list, a mountain of deposits, and an almost finished wedding, and say calmly, maybe we shouldn't do this at all. Something his friends definitely wouldn't see coming. The next morning, Nate was gone before my alarm went off. I woke up to the imprint of his body still faintly visible on the side of the bed he'd abandoned sometime in the night. The guest room door stood half open, bed there unmade, as if even that room hadn't been comfortable enough for him to stay. On the kitchen counter, he'd left a mug in the sink and nothing else. No note, no text, just silence. I stared at the empty space where his keys usually sat and felt something inside me click into place. Okay then. If he wanted to weigh the value of our relationship on the scale of his friends' fear stories, fine. I could give him something concrete to measure. I made coffee, sat down at the dining table, and opened my laptop again. The guest list still glowed on the screen. 200 names. 200 witnesses to a promise I suddenly wasn't sure we should make. Instead of opening the seating chart, I opened my email. The first call I made was to the venue. Hi, I said when the coordinator answered. This is Elise Carter. Our wedding is scheduled for October 12th. Oh yes, hi Elise, she chirped. How can I help you? Are we adding more guests? The hopeful lilt in her voice made my chest tighten. Actually, I said, I need to understand your cancellation policy. There was a beat of silence. Oh, of course, she said, voice softening. Is everything all right? I stared at the faint reflection of myself in the laptop screen. My hair in a messy bun, old college sweatshirt, dark circles that hadn't been there a month ago. Just need the details, I said. What happens if we cancel? She walked me through it. The deposit we'd lose if we canceled now. The timeline for partial refunds. The deadlines. I took notes like I was in a meeting, my handwriting neat and clinical, even as my pulse thudded in my throat. When we hung up, I had a number. $3,000. Gone for good if we pulled the plug now. I sat there for a second and let that sink in. $3,000 was a lot of money. But waking up every day next to a man who didn't trust me felt more expensive. Second call, the caterer. Hi, this is Elise Carter. I just have a question about your cancellation policy for our wedding. Same script, different voice. They were sympathetic but businesslike. 50% refundable up to a certain date. Beyond that, no dice. I opened a new document and started copying details. Venue, caterer, photographer, florist, DJ. Every vendor we'd painstakingly chosen during Saturday afternoons filled with cake tastings and Pinterest boards. Third call, photographer. Hey, Elise, he said, all warm and friendly. Excited for the big day? I swallowed. Yeah, I just need to know. If something comes up, what does your contract say about cancellations? By the time I finished the fifth call, it was nearly noon. I had a tidy list of policies, percentages, and deadlines. It looked like any other work document I'd make for a client. Organized, precise, emotionless. It did not feel emotionless. I attached each confirmation email to a draft message and stared at the to line. My thumb hovered over Nate's name on my phone for a moment before I typed instead from my laptop. I kept the text short. FYI. Here's the cancellation information for all our vendors. Venue, caterer, photographer, florist, DJ attached. Let me know what you want to do. I hit send before I could talk myself out of it. My heart pounded in the sudden silence. The cursor blinked at me in an empty inbox, like it was waiting for a reaction too. It came 30 seconds later. My phone lit up with his name. I answered on the first ring. Hi. What the hell is this? Nate's voice was sharp, barely leashed. Exactly what it says, I replied, keeping my tone even. Cancellation information. I didn't ask you to cancel the wedding. I didn't cancel anything, I said. I gathered information. You're the one with doubts. I'm giving you options. So your solution to me having normal pre-wedding concerns is to blow up the whole thing? He snapped. Normal pre-wedding concerns, I said slowly, are what if it rains? Or what if the chicken is dry? Not what if my partner turns into a different person and ruins my life? That's not what I said. That's exactly what you said. That you're worried I'll change. That you're scared marriage will ruin what we have. I was being honest about my feelings, he shot back. Isn't that what you want? Honesty? And I'm being honest back, I said. If you don't trust me now, we shouldn't be getting married. So either we figure this out or we don't. But we're not sleepwalking down the aisle while you wait for me to fail. So this is an ultimatum? He demanded. Marry you without fear or we cancel everything? This is reality, I said quietly. Marriage without trust is just expensive roommates with a legal contract. If you're already waiting for me to disappoint you, this isn't a partnership, it's a trial. He was silent for a moment. I could hear traffic in the background, the distant honk of a horn. He'd probably stepped out of the office to make this call. You're being manipulative, he said finally. You know that, right? I laughed, a short, humorless sound. If taking your words seriously feels like manipulation, maybe examine why. You're weaponizing the cancellation, he said. You're punishing me for being honest. I tell you I'm scared, and your answer is fine, let's just not get married. That's not fair, Elise. What's unfair, I said, is you spending 4 years watching who I am, then letting one night of your friend's misery outweigh all of it. I'm not punishing you, I'm protecting myself. He exhaled hard. I can't do this right now, I'm at work. Then don't, I said. We can talk later. But the information is in your inbox. Look at it. Think about it. Decide what you actually want instead of panicking because your friends are unhappy. He didn't answer. The line went dead a second later. The rest of the day moved in strange jumps. I answered a few work emails, pretended to care about a client's timeline, stared at the wall a lot. By the time evening came, the apartment felt like a stranger's place. My dress was still hanging in the closet. The save the dates were stacked in a neat pile on the buffet. On top of them, the pen we were supposed to use to write addresses together. The front door stayed shut. Around 9, my phone buzzed again. It wasn't Nate. It was his mother. I closed my eyes for a second before answering. Hi, Karen. Elise, sweetheart, she said, breath already tight. What is going on? Nate called me and said you're canceling the wedding? Not canceling, I said, reconsidering. Over what? She demanded. He said you're throwing everything away because he got nervous. Because he told me he doesn't trust that I won't change after we get married, I corrected. That's a little more than nervous. She was quiet for a moment. So he said he's scared, and you're proving him right by changing now, she said finally. You're the one pulling back. Isn't that exactly what he's afraid of? I'm not changing, I said. I'm responding to a lack of trust. That's different. Sounds like semantics to me, she said. You two love each other. You've put so much into this. Surely you can work through a few pre-wedding jitters without going nuclear. I pinched the bridge of my nose. I'm not going nuclear. I'm looking at the reality. He doesn't trust me, Karen. He doesn't trust that I am who I've been for 4 years. He's had bad influences, she said quickly. His friends, they complain. A lot. I know. But he's a good man. He just got spooked. I agree he's a good man, I said. I also agree his friends are a disaster. That's why I'm not going to drag both of us into a marriage where his default setting is waiting for Elise to become them. You're both being stubborn, she huffed. Maybe, I said, but I'm the one who didn't come home from a night out questioning our entire relationship based on other people's failures. She sighed. What do you want from him? I looked at the stack of vendor emails on my screen. I want him to decide if he trusts me or not, I said, and I want him to tell his friends to back off. I'm not auditioning for the role of wife in front of a panel of bitter men who can't stand that someone else might be happy. That's a harsh thing to say, she murmured. Is it? I asked. When's the last time they said something positive about our relationship? About him? About their own wives? They live in all women are the same land. I'm not moving there. She didn't have an answer for that. Elise, she said finally, I love you like a daughter. I just don't want you to throw away something good because of fear, his or yours. I'm not afraid, I said quietly. That's the difference. I'm sad. I'm angry. But I'm not afraid to walk away if my choices are be trusted or be constantly compared to other people's wives. Another long pause. Well, she said at last, voice resigned, I suppose you two will have to figure this out yourselves. Yeah, I said, we will. We hung up, not angrily, just done. The apartment was very quiet after that. Hours later, I heard the door open. Nate's footsteps in the hallway. The soft creak of the guest room door. He didn't come to the dining table where I sat, didn't come to the couch, didn't come to the kitchen. He just went straight into the guest room and closed the door. No conversation, no, can we talk? Just avoidance. Fine. If he wasn't going to talk to me, I'd keep talking to the only thing that still made sense. The contracts. Over the next 3 days, we became ghosts in our own home. He slept in the guest room. He left before I woke up. Came home after I was in bed. The one time we ran into each other in the hallway. We both froze, muttered awkward hellos, and passed like strangers in an airport. It should have broken my heart more than it did. Instead, every silent day hardened something inside me. He'd made his fear my responsibility and then refused to have the hard conversation. So I did what I do when things are chaotic. I organized. I read the contracts again, highlighted clauses, created a spreadsheet labeled wedding options. Nate thought I was manipulating him with information. He hadn't seen anything yet. The morning of day 4, I was pouring coffee when my phone buzzed. Nate's name flashed across the screen, but it wasn't him. It was a group call, his best friend Mark. I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. Hello? I answered, bracing myself. Wow, Mark said without preamble. So it's true. You're blowing up the wedding because Nate got scared for 5 minutes? I closed my eyes. Of course. Of course Nate had run to them before running to me. Interesting, I said. I didn't realize you were handling PR for him now. Don't do that sarcasm thing, he snapped. Nate's miserable. You're punishing him. By taking his fears seriously, I countered. He said he's worried I'll turn into someone else when we get married. I'm showing him what happens if he prefers fear over trust. You women always do this. I laughed sharply. Mark, please don't finish that sentence. You'll embarrass yourself. He sputtered. I hung up before he found a comeback. By lunchtime, I'd blocked 3 numbers. 2 from Nate's other friends, 1 from a guy named Chris, whose wife once cried in the grocery store because he'd forgotten her birthday dinner. These were the men Nate trusted over me. It would have been funny if it hadn't been tragic. That evening, I came home from work to find Nate sitting on the couch for the first time in days, shoulders tense, jaw hard, hands clasped and white-knuckled. He looked up when I walked in. Elise, he said, voice flat. We need to talk. I dropped my bag by the door. Okay. He stood. The guys want to come over. Tonight. My stomach sank. For what? To talk. He ran a hand through his hair. They think we need help working this out. They're worried about me. They're worried about losing their grip on you, I corrected. There's a difference. He flinched. So what? I asked. They're coming here to, what, hold an intervention? They just want to talk, he insisted. It's not a big deal. It is a big deal, I said quietly, and the answer is no. He stared at me. So you won't even hear them out? I'm not discussing my relationship with you in front of a panel of your miserable friends, I said. Hard pass. His jaw tightened. They're my friends. And I'm your fiancé. We stared at each other in a tight, brittle silence. I softened my voice. Nate, you know they're projecting their marriages onto ours. You know that. That's not fair, he muttered. Is it not? I asked. They complain about their wives constantly. Not once have they ever celebrated something good between us. Not once. He didn't respond. Nate, I said softly, if you need your friends to approve of our relationship, we're already in trouble. But he just looked away. An hour later, I was chopping vegetables for dinner when there was a loud knock at the door. I froze. Nate came down the hall. Elise, he said, voice strained. They're here. What? I turned to him. Nate, I said no. I told them you'd listen, he said. They're worried about you. They're worried about you, I corrected. And they're controlling you through fear. The knock came again, harder this time. Elise, he said urgently, please don't make this worse. Just be reasonable. Reasonable, I repeated slowly, would have been listening when I said no. He looked panicked as he walked to the door. I followed, but I stayed several feet behind him as he opened it. And there they were, all 5 of them. Mark, Chris, Tyler, and 2 others, whose names I didn't ever bother learning because they never said anything useful. They walked right in like they owned the place, all without looking at me. Hey, Elise, Mark said with forced politeness. We need to talk. I stared at them. No, you need to leave. Not until we sort this out, Chris said. Nate is a wreck. And that's my fault? I asked coolly. Yes, another one said. You're overreacting. Big time. You can't cancel a whole wedding because Nate got nervous. I looked at Nate. He looked at the floor. Coward, a voice inside me whispered. Cold anger replaced the ache in my chest. I'm going to say this once, I said. Get out of my home. This is Nate's home too, Mark snapped. No, I said calmly. It's not. The lease is in my name. He's not a legal tenant. You are all trespassing. Silence. I stepped closer, voice steady. If you don't leave in the next 20 seconds, I will call the police and report 5 men refusing to leave my apartment. You wouldn't, Chris scoffed. I picked up my phone. Watch me. Mark's eyes narrowed, but he stepped back. Nate, dude, seriously? But Nate still wouldn't look at me. He muttered, maybe we should go. Maybe, Tyler repeated. She literally threatened to call the cops on us. Because you ambushed me in my own home, I shot back. We're done here. They filed out slowly, muttering under their breath. Mark paused in the doorway. You're making a mistake. Marriage is about compromise. You can't run the show. Oh? I smiled coldly. And who's been running Nate's? His face reddened. He stepped out. The door clicked shut. I turned to Nate. You let them ambush me. He scrubbed a hand over his face. I didn't know they were coming. That's a lie, I said. You told me they wanted to talk. You warned me, and you didn't stop them. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. I grabbed my keys. Where are you going? He demanded. Anywhere but here, I said. I'm not staying in a home where my partner thinks I deserve an intervention because I won't cater to his friends' insecurities. I walked past him. He didn't reach for me, didn't stop me, didn't say anything. That silence answered every question I'd been avoiding. I drove to my best friend Jenna's apartment, stayed there for 3 hours, cried once in the bathroom where she couldn't see. When I got home, the apartment was empty. A text pinged on my phone. Staying with the guys tonight. I need space. Please don't start anything else. I can't take it. I stared at it until the words blurred. I typed back. Take all the space you need. Then I put my phone face down and stared at the ceiling in the dark. It was day 5 now. Day 5 of silence. Day 5 of Nate listening to everyone but me. Day 5 of a wedding I wasn't sure either of us should still want. So I made a decision. A clear, quiet, final one. Not out of spite. Not out of anger. But out of self-respect. If I was really the villain in a story Nate had let his friends write for him, I didn't want to be in that story anymore. Tomorrow I decided I would stop hesitating. Tomorrow I would actually cancel the damn wedding. The next morning, the world felt unnaturally calm. Too calm. The kind of quiet that comes before something breaks. Nate still wasn't home. His toothbrush was missing. His jacket was gone. The shoes he always kicked off by the door, gone too. He had packed just enough to make a point, but not enough to leave for good. A coward's half exit. I brewed coffee, sat at the dining table, and stared at the cancellation confirmations I'd printed the night before. The venue, the caterer, the photographer, the florist, the DJ, all stamped with the same words. Cancellation received. $3,000 lost. More than that, years of trust evaporated because of one night and one sentence. What if you change? I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just breathed through the ache in my chest and thought, better $3,000 than 30 years of resentment. He walked in just after noon, hair messy, shirt wrinkled, eyes bloodshot. He looked like someone who had slept on a couch that wasn't meant to be slept on, probably Mark's. His gaze went to the papers immediately. He froze. "Elise," he whispered, voice cracking. "What? What is this?" "Exactly what it looks like," I said, folding my hands. He picked up the venue confirmation, staring at it like it was a death certificate. "You actually canceled everything?" "Yes." He sank onto the couch like his legs had given out. "Why? How could you do that?" "I canceled a wedding," I said quietly, where one person didn't trust the other. That's not what I meant," he said, voice rising, desperate. "Elise, I was scared. I said something stupid. I didn't think you'd... Why didn't you just reassure me?" I swallowed hard. "I've been reassuring you for 4 years," I said softly, "with my actions, with my time, with everything I've poured into us. And the second your friends got in your head, you doubted all of it." He rubbed his face with both hands. "I didn't mean it. I was confused. I was emotional." "And what do you think I was?" I asked. "Calm? Logical? You think hearing the man I love say he's waiting for me to disappoint him felt neutral?" He looked at me, eyes shining now. "You're punishing me," he whispered. "No," I said. "I'm protecting myself." He stood abruptly, pacing. "They said you'd do this," he muttered. "They said you'd manipulate me, use the wedding to control me, make everything a test." I stared at him. "That's interesting," I said, "because from where I'm standing, the only people actually controlling you are your friends." He stopped pacing. "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" I asked, rising. "Nate, when's the last time you disagreed with them? When's the last time you stood up for me in front of them? When's the last time you defended our relationship when they were tearing it down?" He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. "Exactly." I stepped closer, voice soft but steady. "They invaded our home. They talked over me. They ambushed me. And you didn't stop them. You didn't ask them to leave. You didn't defend me." "I didn't know what to do," he whispered. "You choose," I said. "You choose your partner. That's what you do." Silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Finally, he spoke. "I talked to my mom," he said quietly. I waited. She said I'm acting like marriage is a trap instead of a choice. That fear isn't a reason to destroy something good." I nodded slightly. "She's right." He swallowed. "She also said you're right about the trust thing. That going into a marriage expecting your partner to fail is unfair." I felt a small exhale leave my lungs. "It is. But she also said you're being extreme, that you shouldn't cancel everything without trying to fix it." "Extreme," I repeated and laughed softly. "Nate, I didn't cancel everything because you got scared. I canceled everything because you let your fear become our reality." He winced. "And then," I continued, "you let 5 men who resent their wives more than they love them come into our home and tell you how to manage your relationship." His shoulders tensed. "I know." "Do you?" I asked. "Because right now I'm not sure who I'm talking to, you or them." He sank back down again. "Elise," he said quietly, "I love you. I want to marry you. I don't want to lose you." "Then why," I asked, "did you act like you already had?" He let out a long, broken breath. "Because I was a coward," he said. "Because I was scared, and because they..." "They what?" "They made me think I was stupid for being happy," he said, voice barely audible. "They made me think men who stay in love are naive, that caring becomes weakness, that romance dies, that it's inevitable." "And you believe them," I said. "I didn't want to," he whispered. "But hearing the same thing from all of them, it got into my head, and instead of talking to you, I panicked." I nodded slowly. "Okay," I said. "Then here's the real question." He lifted his eyes to mine. "Do you actually trust me?" I asked quietly. "Not the theoretical me, not hypothetical future Elise. Me, the woman standing in front of you." He didn't hesitate this time. "Yes," he said, "I do. I swear I do." "And do you trust yourself," I asked, "to not let your friends run your marriage?" He closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something new flickered there. Resolve. Elise, he said, voice steady for the first time that day, they're not coming near our marriage again. I felt something loosen in my chest. What do you mean? I mean, I'm done letting them poison everything, he said. I'm done listening to them complain about their wives and pretending that's what mine will become. I'm done letting their bitterness be louder than my own experience. He took a breath. I'm telling them today, he continued. They're not part of the wedding, not part of the planning, not part of any of this, not until they can respect you and us. I searched his face. He wasn't bluffing, not this time. And if they don't like it, I asked, then they can deal with it, he said, because I'm choosing you. He stepped closer. If you'll still have me, he said softly, I want to plan a new wedding. Smaller, just family, people who actually love us. No noise, no fear, no bitterness. Something stung behind my eyes. Nate, I whispered, I canceled the wedding because I couldn't marry someone who didn't trust me. And now, he asked. And now, I said, I'm staring at someone who finally learned how to. A shaky breath left him. So yes, I said. If we do this, we do it differently. Small, simple. No friends who think they know our relationship better than we do. I want that, he said. I want you. I swallowed. Okay, I whispered. Then let's start again. He reached for my hands. Thank you. For what? For making me actually choose. I let out a slow breath. No more running, I said. No more running, he echoed. We stood there in a quiet room filled with the ashes of a wedding that had collapsed under the weight of other people's fears, and the blueprint of a new one just beginning to take shape. Planning the second wedding felt nothing like the first. No spreadsheets with 200 names, no passive-aggressive suggestions from friends, no pressure to make everything Pinterest-worthy. It was just us, sitting at the dining table with mugs of tea, picking a garden venue with fairy lights, and a guest list small enough to fit in a single text message. 30 people, family only. No one who thought our happiness was naive. For the first time in months, our home felt soft again. Nate was different now. Quietly, steadily different. Not in a dramatic way, but in the way a man changes when he realizes he almost lost something precious. He still left his shoes in the hallway. He still forgot where he put the mail. But he took initiative in ways he never had before. He suggested dates. He booked them himself. He pulled me close when passing me in the kitchen. He asked questions instead of assuming answers. Most importantly, he shut down negativity instantly. The first test came 2 days after our conversation. Mark called. I heard Nate's voice through the bedroom door. No, you don't get to talk about Elise that way, and you don't get to talk about me that way either. A pause. No, you're not invited to the wedding. None of you are. Another pause, this one longer. Yeah, I told her, and I'm repeating it right now. If your happiness depends on tearing down someone else's relationship, you're not my friend. I'm done. I sat on the bed, hands clasped, listening to the finality in his voice. He wasn't choosing me because he feared losing me. He was choosing me because finally he understood the cost of choosing them. The fallout was immediate and messy. His old friend group exploded like fireworks in a trash can. Mark sent a 4-paragraph text calling me controlling. Chris wrote that Nate was whipped. Tyler said Nate would regret throwing away 10 years of friendship over a woman. Nate blocked all of them. Not once did he ask me if he should. He simply did. You'll see, marriage changes everyone, even you. Nate laughed when he read it. They still don't get it, he murmured. They think love is a curse, not a choice. The quietest friend, the one who hadn't spoken during the ambush, reached out separately. His message was simple. Can we talk? Not about you, about me. Nate hesitated for days before agreeing. He came home from that coffee meeting looking stunned. His marriage is falling apart, he said quietly. He said he was jealous of us. I sat up straighter. Jealous? He told me, Nate continued, that he wished he and his wife still looked at each other the way we do. That he joined in with the others because it was easier to complain than to admit he was unhappy. I let out a soft breath. What did you say? That I'm sorry, Nate said, and that he deserves better than a support group built on bitterness. This friend later messaged me too. A simple apology. Genuine. Human. I appreciated it more than I expected. The second wedding came fast, beautiful in its simplicity. The garden venue glowed with warm lights. My family gathered beneath a stone archway. Nate's parents stood beside him, smiling with relief, written across their faces. I walked down a short aisle with my mother at my side as piano music played softly. No entourage of bridesmaids, no groomsmen lined up like soldiers. No tense whispers from a friend group waiting for drama. Just people who loved us. Just peace. Nate cried before I reached him. I cried when he did. We held hands, and for the first time in a long time, everything felt exactly right. His vows were simple. Elise, I love you because you don't let fear make your decisions, because you make me want to be better, because you remind me that trust isn't given, it's chosen every day. I promise to choose you, always. He meant it, every word. At the reception dinner, between bites of roasted chicken and laughter from my mother, Nate's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at the screen. His face hardened. He turned the phone to me. A text from Mark. He'll change. Just wait. They always do. Marriage ruins men. You'll see. I felt a flicker of old anger. Nate snorted, typed something, and hit send. I glanced at the message before he locked his phone. The only thing marriage ruined was my patience for miserable people. Don't contact us again. He blocked the number. Then he looked at me, eyes soft again, reached for my hand, and said, "Dance with me." I did. And as we moved under strings of lights in a tiny garden with only our families watching, I thought, this is the wedding we were supposed to have all along. Time passed. The bitterness of the friend group didn't disappear. It collapsed. One by one, their relationships crumbled. Mark got divorced. Chris's wife moved out. Tyler ended up in counseling after his wife gave him an ultimatum. The quiet friend, the one who apologized, actually made progress. He went to therapy, stopped blaming his wife for everything, cut ties with the toxic group. He and his wife were still trying, rebuilding. He reached out a few months later. "I owe you both," he said when we met for coffee. "You were the wake-up call the rest of us ignored." Nate shrugged. "We just did what we had to." The friend shook his head. "No, you did what the rest of us were too scared to." Nate and I? We didn't morph into cliches. We didn't stop trying. We didn't turn into strangers after signing a legal document. We did the same things we always had, because we had chosen each other long before the vows. He still plans date nights. I still write notes in his lunch sometimes. He presses his forehead to mine when he's tired. I rub his back when he's stressed. We still laugh in the kitchen. Still apologize when we're wrong. Still choose trust over fear. One night, months later, curled on the couch under a soft blanket, he kissed the top of my head and murmured, "Thank you." I looked up. "For what?" "For not reassuring me," he said. "For not pretending everything was fine. For making me look at myself. For making me choose." "I wasn't trying to teach you a lesson," I said. "I was protecting my heart." "I know," he whispered. "That's what made it real." He held my hand, thumb brushing over my ring. "I almost lost you," he said, "because I was listening to men who had already lost themselves." I rested my head on his shoulder. "But you didn't," I said softly, "because you chose us." He squeezed my hand. "Best decision I ever made." Next year, we're renewing our vows. A bigger ceremony this time. Family. Friends who actually know what loyalty means. A peaceful celebration. His old friend group won't be invited. Not because we're vengeful, but because our marriage isn't a spectator sport for people rooting for us to fail. Some people still say I went too far when I canceled the wedding. That I should have just reassured him, just smoothed it over, just kept the peace. But reassurance without accountability is worthless. Trust without boundaries is delusion. And fear-based decisions ruin more marriages than bad habits ever do. Marriage didn't change us. It just proved who we already were. And that is more satisfying than any revenge could ever be.